Was this a sound you always wanted to make, or did you just know you needed to kind of step away from the EDM world to craft a new sound?
Yeah, I definitely don't think it was, something I started with, I'm going to set out to make this thing that sounds like this. It was more just the electronic thing, which sort of accidentally happened, was really rad and a cool experience, but definitely not what I grew up listening to or sort of what resonated with me in terms of, I think you sort of have this picture of what, success looks like when you're first starting out in bands, or I guess in anything, but when it looks different than that and it's technically still success, it's very confusing because you're like, okay, I always equate it to, it's kind of like you grew up, wanting to be in the NFL, but instead you're in the NBA and you're like, okay, it's still sports. So that's cool. But it's so far from sort of where you saw yourself being in terms of what you're making.
Yeah.
At least for me, in terms of what I was making. So I just knew that eventually I was going to want to start something that wasn't attached to that. And I also just like the idea of, okay, I did that for 6-7 years and it was cool, but now what? What's the next thing that's going to be exciting? I think it was just, I'm going to start something new. I don't know what it is. I'm going to start writing and I'll kind of figure it out when I get there.
Okay.
And the first song that came and felt sort of like, oh, this is the start of this new thing, whatever it is, was a song called On the Five. And then from there it was like, oh, I get it. I get what the lane is for this thing. And that obviously evolved and changed a lot in the 3 years we've been a band, but it was an obvious starting point. So
I think On the Five, you kind of debuted immediately with like a sense of humor with your branding and band, especially with the music video.
Totally.
Why do you think you incorporate that? Is it natural, or do you just kind of want to make something more lighthearted?
I think, I don't know. I hate when people or things take themselves too seriously.
Yeah.
And that's not to say my favorite songs are typically ballads and sad songs. So it's not necessarily that in the art that it can't be heavy or serious. But I don't know. Maybe it's a crutch of just not wanting to, place too much importance or make people think we care too much. I don't know.
Crutch.
I like to laugh, and it's not that serious. It's
Gotcha.
music,
That's a good point, though. I think like anytime you're a creator or something, I feel like I even see myself doing that. Like I need to really just like if I'm having too much of an influencer moment, like with my latest shit, I'm like I need to like post a picture of me eating a SpongeBob ice cream, which I did last night. Like it can't be too serious all the time because it's not who I am.
I don't know. I'm just always in a state of humiliation. So I think having some level of humor involved makes it more digestible or something.
Yeah.
And also I feel like when I'm happiest, it's when I'm making my friends laugh and stuff. So having a piece of that carry over to what we do makes it feel a little bit more like, oh yeah, this is real and at least a slice of authentic. It's really easy, I think, to lose track of that part of it. Like, is this part sincere or real? At least in the experience I had with electronic music, where I was like, wow, I'm basically playing a role in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to do that with this. I wanted to make sure that, for better or for worse, whether it works or it didn't work, it was at least just an extension of like hanging out in a room.